Elliot the elephant stood on the edge of the dense jungle, his wide, curious eyes scanning the vibrant trees, thick with green foliage. The sound of chirping birds and rustling leaves filled the air. It was beautiful, no doubt, but Elliot's heart felt heavy. He had left behind the only family he had ever known, a herd that had grown tired of his endless curiosity. "Why do you always ask so many questions, Elliot?" his older brother had once said in frustration. "Just follow the herd like the rest of us." Elliot couldn't help it. He had always been different, always dreaming of exploring beyond the open plains where his family roamed. But that dream had come at a cost. Now, as he stood at the entrance to a new world, he felt a pang of doubt. "Maybe I'm not meant to belong anywhere," he muttered to himself, his deep voice tinged with sadness. With a heavy sigh, Elliot took his first step into the jungle. The jungle was alive in a way Elliot had never experienced before. Monkeys swung from tree to tree, their laughter echoing like a playful melody. Birds with feathers as bright as rainbows flitted between branches, their songs blending into a harmonious chorus. Small critters scurried across the forest floor, darting in and out of bushes. Elliot felt a spark of hope. Maybe this place could be his new home. Maybe, just maybe, he could find friends here. As he walked deeper into the jungle, Elliot marveled at its beauty. A crystal clear stream trickled over smooth stones, and colorful flowers bloomed in every direction. He bent down to take a drink from the stream, his large trunk scooping up the cool water. But even as he admired the jungle, Elliot couldn't ignore the glances he was getting. Animals stopped what they were doing to stare at him, their eyes wide with surprise. Or was it fear? "Who's that?" whispered a squirrel to her companion. "He's huge," said another, his voice trembling. "I've never seen anything like him before," muttered a bird from a low-hanging branch. Elliot tried to ignore the whispers, but they stung. Was he too different to fit in here too? Determined to prove himself, Elliot decided to approach a small group of monkeys playing in a nearby tree. He watched as they swung from branch to branch, their laughter ringing out in the air. "Hello," Elliot called out, his deep voice startling the group. The monkeys froze mid-swing, their eyes wide as they stared at the large figure below. Slowly, one of them climbed down to meet him. "What do you want?" asked Max, a young, agile monkey with sharp eyes. "I was hoping to join your group," Elliot said, trying to sound cheerful. "You all look like you're having so much fun." Max tilted his head, studying Elliot. "Join us? You?" He let out a chuckle. "I don't think so, big guy. You'd break the branches if you tried to swing with us." The other monkeys burst into laughter, their hoots and howls echoing through the jungle. Elliot felt his ears droop. "I didn't mean to disturb you," he said quietly, backing away. "Don't take it personally," Max called after him. "You're just not like us." Elliot walked away, his heart sinking. Elliot's next encounter was with Ruby, a sleek and speedy rabbit who was darting through the underbrush. He watched her for a moment, impressed by her agility. "Excuse me," Elliot said, stepping forward. Ruby skidded to a stop, her nose twitching as she looked up at him. "Whoa, you're a big one, aren't you?" "I'm Elliot," he said, offering a small smile. "I was wondering if you'd like to be friends." Ruby blinked. "Friends? With you? She circled him, her nose twitching as she inspected him. "You seem nice, but can you keep up with me?" "I can try," Elliot said eagerly. Ruby smirked. "All right then. Let's race." Before Elliot could respond, Ruby darted off, her white tail bobbing as she disappeared into the trees. Elliot tried to follow, but his large feet weren't made for running through dense underbrush. By the time he caught up, Ruby was already lounging by a patch of clover, nibbling on a leaf. That was fun. Elliot panted, his sides heaving. Ruby shook her head. "You're sweet, Elliot, but you're way too slow. I don't think we'd make a good team." Elliot's heart sank again as Ruby hopped away. Later, Elliot met Finn, a witty frog lounging by a pond. Finn was friendly at first, cracking jokes and making Elliot laugh. But when Elliot expressed his desire for friendship, Finn frowned. "Look, big guy," Finn said, "you're nice and all, but you're not exactly built for the water, are you? I mean, what would we even do together?" Elliot didn't have an answer. Once again, he was left feeling out of place. As night fell, Elliot found himself alone in a clearing. The jungle, so vibrant during the day, now felt cold and unwelcoming. He looked up at the starry sky, wondering if he had made a mistake coming here. "Feeling lost, are we?" Elliot jumped, startled by the soft, wise voice. He turned to see a large owl perched on a low branch. Her feathers were a mix of brown and gray, and her amber eyes seemed to glow in the moonlight. "Who are you?" Elliot asked. "My name is Willow," the owl said, tilting her head. "And you must be Elliot. Word travels fast in the jungle." Elliot sighed. "Let me guess, everyone thinks I'm too big to belong here." Willow chuckled. "You're certainly different, but that's not a bad thing." "It feels like it is," Elliot muttered. Willow's eyes softened. "The jungle is a big place, Elliot. Not everyone will see your worth right away, but that doesn't mean you don't have it. Sometimes it just takes time and a little courage." Elliot looked at her, her words stirring something inside him. "You really think I belong here?" "I do," Willow said firmly. "But you'll need to show them who you are, not just what you look like. Keep going, Elliot. You'll find your place." The morning sun rose, casting golden light through the trees. Elliot stretched his long trunk and looked around. Despite the challenges he had faced yesterday, he wasn't ready to give up. "I'll find a way," Elliot said to himself. "There has to be someone who'll want to be my friend." With renewed determination, Elliot ventured deeper into the jungle. He passed a group of parrots squawking and laughing in the treetops, a family of deer grazing near a meadow, and a pack of wolves slinking through the shadows. None of them gave him more than a passing glance, and Elliot decided to focus on finding individuals rather than groups. Elliot returned to the tall tree where he had first encountered Max and the other monkeys. This time, he found Max alone, lounging on a branch and chewing on a mango. "Back again, big guy," Max said, smirking as Elliot approached. "I wanted to try again," Elliot said, standing tall. "I know I'm not like you, but maybe we can still find something fun to do together." Max tapped his chin, pretending to think. "All right, let's see what you've got." He leaped down from the tree and picked up a stick. Catch! He threw the stick high into the air. Elliot tried to grab it with his trunk, but it sailed past him and landed on the ground. Max burst out laughing. "Come on, you're not even trying." Elliot frowned but didn't give up. "Try again," he said firmly. Max threw the stick again, this time aiming higher. Elliot reached out and managed to catch it with the very tip of his trunk. "Ha! Nice one." Max said, clapping his hands. But as Elliot handed the stick back, Max added, "Still, I don't see how you'd fit in with us. We climb, we swing, we jump. Can you do any of that?" Elliot hesitated. "No, but I can do other things." "Like what?" Max asked, raising an eyebrow. Elliot tried to think of an answer, but before he could respond, Max shook his head. "Sorry, buddy. You're just not monkey material." Elliot watched as Max climbed back into the trees, his heart sinking. Determined not to let Max's rejection get to him, Elliot decided to try again with Ruby. He found her near her burrow, nibbling on a patch of clover. "Hello, Ruby," Elliot said, his voice calm and friendly. Ruby glanced up, her ears twitching. "Oh, it's you again. Didn't I tell you we wouldn't make a good team?" "I know, but I just want to talk," Elliot said. "Can I sit here for a while?" Ruby shrugged. "Suit yourself." As Elliot settled down, he noticed that Ruby seemed unusually tense. Her nose twitched more than usual, and her ears constantly swiveled to catch every sound. "Is something wrong?" Elliot asked. Ruby sighed. "It's the jungle," she admitted. "It's full of predators, foxes, snakes, and worse. You always have to be ready to run." Elliot tilted his head. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," Ruby said, her voice soft. "But that's the way it is. If you're slow, you don't survive." She glanced at Elliot. "No offense, but you wouldn't last a day if something came after you." Elliot frowned. "I may be slow, but I'm strong. If something came after you, I could protect you." Ruby blinked, surprised by his words. "Protect me? How?" "I could use my trunk or my strength to scare them off," Elliot said confidently. Ruby hesitated, then shook her head. "Thanks, but I'll stick to my own ways. Running is what I'm good at." Elliot sighed as Ruby hopped away, wondering if anyone would ever see his worth. Elliot wandered aimlessly until he found himself near the pond where Finn lived. The frog was lounging on a lily pad, croaking a cheerful tune. Well, if it isn't the big guy," Finn said, grinning. "What brings you to my neck of the woods?" "I was hoping we could talk," Elliot said. Finn raised an eyebrow. "Talk? Sure, I've got time. What's on your mind?" Elliot explained his struggles, his voice tinged with frustration. "No one wants to be my friend. They all think I'm too different," Finn chuckled. "Well, you are different. Look at you. You're like a walking mountain." Elliot frowned. "I don't think that's very funny." "Relax, big guy," Finn said, hopping onto a nearby rock. "I'm just messing with you. You know, maybe you just need to lighten up a bit. Have some fun." "Fun?" Elliot repeated. "Yeah, like this." Finn leaped into the air and splashed into the pond, sending water flying everywhere. He resurfaced a moment later, laughing. "Come on, give it a try." Elliot hesitated, then stepped into the pond. The water felt cool against his skin, and for a moment he felt at ease. But as he tried to join Finn in splashing around, his large feet stirred up so much mud that the water turned murky. Whoa, easy there," Finn said, coughing as mud splattered onto his lily pad. "Sorry," Elliot said. Stepping back, Finn shook his head. "You're a nice guy, Elliot, but you're not exactly built for pond life. Maybe you should stick to dry land." Elliot sighed as Finn hopped away, leaving him alone once again. As the day wore on, Elliot found a quiet spot beneath a tall tree and sat down, his shoulders slumped. He thought about Max, Ruby, and Finn, all the animals who had dismissed him because he wasn't like them. Maybe they're right, Elliot muttered. Maybe I don't belong here. But as he looked around, he couldn't help but notice the beauty of the jungle. The way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, the sound of the stream bubbling nearby, the chorus of birds singing in the distance. It was a place full of life and wonder. Maybe I'm just not trying hard enough, Elliot said to himself. There has to be a way to prove I belong. He decided to keep going. No matter how hard it got, Elliot wandered aimlessly until he reached a wide river. The water rushed quickly, sparkling under the morning sun. As he stood at the edge, thinking about his next move, he noticed a commotion. A group of animals had gathered by the riverbank, chattering nervously. Among them were Max the monkey, Ruby the rabbit, and even Finn, the frog, who usually stayed near his pond. They were all staring at a small family of deer stranded on the other side of the river. The current's too strong, Max said, scratching his head. They'll never make it across, and there's no bridge nearby, Ruby added, her ears drooping. Finn chimed in, we can't just leave them there. Elliot hesitated, watching the scene unfold. He wanted to help, but the memory of Max, Ruby, and Finn rejecting him lingered in his mind. Still, he couldn't ignore the sight of the frightened deer. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. I can help, he said, his deep voice silencing the crowd. Max turned to him, raising an eyebrow. You? How? I'm strong enough to carry them across, Elliot said confidently. The animals exchanged doubtful glances, but the deer on the other side of the river looked hopeful. All right, Max said reluctantly. Let's see what you've got, big guy. Elliot waded into the river, his massive feet steady against the strong current. The water swirled around him, but he held his ground. Climb onto my back, he called to the deer. One by one, the deer stepped onto Elliot's broad back, their hoofs trembling with fear. Elliot moved slowly but surely, his strength and balance keeping him steady. By the time he reached the other side, the animals on the riverbank erupted in cheers. You did it, Ruby exclaimed, her eyes wide with amazement. Not bad, big guy, Max admitted, a small grin on his face. For the first time, Elliot felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe he did have a place in the jungle after all. Later that evening, Elliot sat beneath a tall tree, still basking in the success of the day. As the moonlight filtered through the leaves, he heard the familiar sound of wings flapping. Well done, Elliot, said Willow, landing gracefully on a branch above him. You saw what happened? Elliot asked, his voice filled with pride. Of course, Willow said, her amber eyes glowing. You proved your worth today. But remember, one victory doesn't mean the journey is over. Elliot frowned. What do you mean? Not everyone will see your value right away, Willow explained. And there will still be challenges ahead. But you've taken an important step. Elliot nodded, her words sinking in. He knew she was right. While today had been a success, he couldn't expect everything to change overnight. The next morning, Elliot was surprised to see Max swinging toward him through the trees. The monkey stopped in front of him, a mischievous grin on his face. Hey, big guy, Max said. I've been thinking. You're stronger than I thought. How about joining us for a game? A game? Elliot repeated, his ears perking up. Yeah, we're playing jungle tag. You'll have to chase us, and if you catch anyone, they're out. Think you can handle it? Elliot hesitated. He wasn't exactly built for speed, but he didn't want to pass up the chance to spend time with Max and the other monkeys. I'll give it a try, Elliot said. The game began, and Elliot quickly realized how fast and agile the monkeys were. They darted through the trees, leaping from branch to branch with ease. Elliot did his best to keep up, using his trunk to grab low-hanging vines and pull himself forward. Though he didn't catch anyone, the monkeys seemed impressed by his effort. Not bad, big guy, Max said, clapping him on the back. You've got potential. For the first time, Elliot felt like he was starting to fit in. Later that day, Elliot came across Ruby, who was pacing nervously near her burrow. What's wrong? Elliot asked. It's my sister, Ruby said, her voice shaking. She wandered off, and I think a fox is after her. Elliot's heart raced. Where did she go? Ruby pointed toward a dense thicket. Without hesitation, Elliot charged into the underbrush, his large body crashing through the bushes. He found Ruby's sister cornered by a sly fox, its sharp teeth bared. The fox turned to face Elliot, snarling, but Elliot didn't back down. With a loud trumpet from his trunk, Elliot stomped his foot, the ground shaking beneath him. The fox yelped and darted away, disappearing into the shadows. Ruby's sister ran to Elliot, trembling with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered when Elliot brought her back to Ruby, the rabbit's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to thank you, Ruby said. You don't have to, Elliot replied with a smile. As Elliot walked along the riverbank the next day, he spotted Finn sitting on a rock, looking unusually quiet. Hey, big guy, Finn said when he saw Elliot. I heard about what you did for Ruby's sister. That was brave. Elliot nodded. I just did what I could. Finn rubbed the back of his neck, looking sheepish. Listen, I've been thinking. I wasn't very nice to you before. I guess I didn't see what you were capable of. I'm sorry. Elliot smiled. It's okay, Finn. I just want to be friends. Friends, huh? Finn said, grinning. All right, big guy. Friends it is. Over the next few days, Elliot noticed a change in how the jungle's animals treated him. Max, Ruby, and Finn all began including him in their activities, and even the other animals started warming up to him. Elliot still faced challenges. He wasn't as fast as Ruby, as agile as Max, or as quick-witted as Finn, but he learned to embrace his strengths. He used his size and strength to help others, from moving fallen branches to guiding lost animals back to their homes. For the first time, Elliot felt like he truly belonged. The jungle seemed peaceful as Elliot strolled along the riverbank, enjoying the sound of birds chirping and the soft rustle of leaves. Max, Ruby, and Finn joined him for a morning walk. This is the life, Finn croaked, stretching out on a rock. I could get used to this, Ruby added, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air. Elliot smiled, feeling content. For the first time, he felt truly accepted by his friends. But the peace didn't last long. A distant roar shattered the calm. Birds scattered from the treetops, and the ground seemed to tremble beneath their feet. What was that? Ruby asked, her voice trembling. Finn gulped. Whatever it is, it doesn't sound friendly. Max climbed a tree to get a better view. Guys? We've got a problem. What kind of problem? Elliot asked, his heart pounding. Max pointed toward the horizon. A wildfire. And it's heading this way. The group quickly gathered the animals of the jungle, spreading the word about the approaching fire. Panic spread like wildfire itself as animals darted in every direction, unsure of what to do. We need to stay calm, Elliot said, his deep voice cutting through the chaos. Easy for you to say, a bird squawked. You're big enough to outrun it. Elliot shook his head. No one can outrun a wildfire. We need to work together to stop it, or at least slow it down. Max nodded. He's right. If we don't do something, the whole jungle will burn. The animals looked at each other, uncertain. Finally, Willow swooped down from above, her calm presence bringing order to the crowd. Elliot is right, she said. The jungle's survival depends on all of us. Let's hear his plan. Elliot hesitated, feeling the weight of responsibility. But he knew he couldn't back down. We need to create a firebreak, he said. A gap in the trees that the fire can't cross. If we work together, we can make it in time. The animals sprang into action under Elliot's guidance. Max led the monkeys in clearing branches and vines, while Ruby organized the smaller animals to dig trenches. Finn coordinated the water-dwelling creatures to bring water from the river to dampen the ground. Elliot used his strength to knock down large, dry trees that could fuel the fire. His massive size, once seen as a disadvantage, now made him the most important member of the effort. You're doing great, big guy, Max called from above as he swung from branch to branch. Ruby smiled up at him. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're here, Elliot. Even Finn, who had been skeptical of Elliot at first, croaked in agreement. You're the glue holding this whole thing together. Despite the hard work, the fire continued to advance. The animals grew tired, and doubt began to creep in. Do you think we're doing enough? Ruby asked, her voice wavering. Elliot paused, looking at the exhausted faces around him. We have to keep going, he said firmly. We can't give up now. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the fire finally reached the edge of the jungle. The animals stood together, watching as flames lit up the night sky. We've done all we can, Elliot said. Now we have to hope it's enough. The fire roared as it reached the firebreak. For a moment, it seemed like the flames would leap across, but the gap held. The fire slowed, then began to die down as it ran out of fuel. Cheers erupted from the animals as they realized their home was safe. We did it, Max shouted, punching the air. Ruby hugged Elliot's leg. You were amazing, Elliot. Elliot smiled, his heart swelling with pride. For the first time, he felt truly valued by the jungle, just as the animals began to celebrate. A new problem emerged. A group of young animals had gotten separated from the others and were trapped on the far side of the firebreak. We have to help them, Ruby said, her voice filled with urgency. Elliot didn't hesitate. I'll go, he said. Max grabbed his arm. Are you crazy? The fire's still burning. I'm the only one strong enough to make it through, Elliot said. I can handle it. Before anyone could stop him, Elliot charged through the smoke and flames. The heat was intense, and the air was thick with ash, but he pressed on. When he reached the young animals, they were huddled together, trembling with fear. It's okay, Elliot said gently. I'll get you out of here. He used his trunk to lift the smallest ones onto his back, then guided the others through the firebreak and back to safety. When he emerged from the smoke, the jungle erupted in cheers. Elliot stood at the center of the gathered animals, his soot-covered skin a testament to his bravery. "You saved them," Willow said, her voice filled with admiration. "Elliot, you're a hero," Ruby added. Even Max, who rarely gave compliments, patted him on the back. "Not bad, big guy." "Not bad at all." Elliot smiled, but he didn't feel like a hero. "I just did what anyone would have done," he said humbly. "No," Willow said. "You did what only you could do. Your strength, your courage, your heart, that's what saved the jungle." Elliot looked around at his friends and the other animals. Finally feeling like he belonged. The animals worked together to rebuild the damaged parts of the jungle. Elliot stood with Max, Ruby, and Finn, watching the sunrise. "You know," Finn said, "I think this jungle's a better place with you in it." Ruby nodded. "I agree," Max grinned. "Yeah, you're not so bad, big guy." Elliot chuckled, his heart full of gratitude. "Thanks, everyone. I couldn't have done it without you." The jungle was safe, but Elliot's journey was far from over. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but for the first time, he felt ready to face them with his friends by his side. The jungle had begun to recover from the wildfire. The animals worked together to rebuild their homes, and Elliot finally felt at peace. However, the calm didn't last long. Late one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Willow flew into the clearing where Elliot and his friends were resting. Her eyes were wide with worry. "Elliot," she said, her voice trembling, "something's wrong. There's something out there." "What do you mean?" Max asked, climbing down from a tree. "I overheard the owls talking," Willow explained. "There's a predator in the jungle, one we haven't seen before. They say it's fast, silent, and ruthless. Animals have already gone missing." Ruby's ears flattened against her head. "Missing? What kind of predator are we talking about?" "No one knows," Willow said. "But everyone's calling it the shadow." Elliot frowned, his heart sinking. "We need to warn everyone." As word of the shadow spread, fear began to grip the jungle. Animals started avoiding open spaces, and some even considered leaving the jungle entirely. "It's chaos out there," Finn said, hopping up to Elliot. "Everyone's panicking," Max sighed. "Can you blame them? A predator that no one can see or stop. It's terrifying." Elliot stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as animals argued about what to do. "We can't let fear tear us apart," he said. "But what can we do?" Ruby asked. "We don't even know what we're up against." Elliot took a deep breath. "We'll figure it out together. But first, we need to keep everyone safe. Let's set up a watch system and make sure no one is left alone." Reluctantly, the animals agreed to Elliot's plan. Groups of animals took turns keeping watch, but the fear in the jungle remained palpable. One night, while Elliot and Max were on watch near the river, a strange sound broke the silence. It was a low growl, deep and menacing, followed by the rustling of leaves. Max froze. What was that? Elliot scanned the darkness, his ears twitching. "Stay close." The growling grew louder, and then, out of the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes appeared. The creature was unlike anything Elliot had ever seen. A sleek black panther with razor-sharp claws and a predatory glint in its eyes. The panther lunged at Max, but Elliot stepped in front of him, using his massive body as a shield. The panther swiped at him, but Elliot stood his ground, trumpeting loudly to alert the others. Startled by the noise, the panther retreated into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. When the other animals arrived, Max was shaking. That thing! It was so fast. If Elliot hadn't been there, you're safe now, Elliot said, though his own heart was racing. But we need to prepare for when it comes back. The next day, tension was high. Some animals blamed Elliot for drawing the predator's attention, while others wanted to abandon the jungle altogether. "This is madness," Ruby said, pacing back and forth. "We can't just run away. This is our home, but what if we're not strong enough to fight it?" Finn asked. Max crossed his arms. "We have Elliot. He's the strongest of all of us. We just need a plan." Elliot felt the weight of their words. He wanted to protect them, but he wasn't sure how to defeat a creature as cunning and dangerous as the panther. That night, as he sat alone, Willow landed beside him. "You're carrying a heavy burden," she said softly. Elliot nodded. "I don't know if I can do this, Willow." "What if I fail?" Willow tilted her head. "Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to try, even when you're afraid." Her words gave Elliot a renewed sense of determination. Elliot and his friends devised a plan to trap the panther. They gathered vines, branches, and stones to create a makeshift cage. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance at capturing the predator. As they worked, the animals began to regain some of their confidence. Seeing Elliot take charge inspired them, and for the first time since the shadow appeared, there was a glimmer of hope. "This might actually work," Max said as they finished the trap. Ruby nodded. "If anyone can pull this off, it's us." The trap was set, and the animals waited in tense silence. Elliot, Max, Ruby, and Finn hid nearby, ready to spring into action. Hours passed, and just when they began to think the panther wouldn't show, a low growl echoed through the clearing. The panther emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with menace. Elliot stepped forward, drawing the panther's attention. "Over here," he called, his voice steady despite his fear. The panther lunged at him, but Elliot was ready. He dodged to the side, leading the panther toward the trap. At the last moment, Max and Ruby triggered the mechanism, and the cage fell, trapping the panther inside. The creature snarled and thrashed, but the trap held firm. "We did it!" Ruby exclaimed, her eyes wide with relief. Elliot approached the cage, looking into the panther's eyes. Despite its ferocity, he saw something else: fear and desperation. Willow flew down, landing beside Elliot. "Well done," she said. "But the question remains, what do we do now?" The animals gathered around, debating what to do with the panther. Some wanted to drive it out of the jungle, while others suggested a more permanent solution. Elliot raised his trunk, silencing the crowd. "Wait," he said. "Look at it. It's not attacking anymore. Maybe it's not here because it wants to be. Maybe it's here because it has nowhere else to go." The animals fell silent, considering his words. "Let's find out why it's here before we make any decisions," Elliot said. Over the next few days, Elliot and Willow observed the panther, slowly earning its trust. They discovered that the panther's territory had been destroyed by humans, forcing it to seek a new home. When Elliot explained this to the other animals, their fear turned to sympathy. "We can't blame it for trying to survive," Ruby said. Max nodded. "Maybe there's a way for us to coexist." With Elliot's guidance, the animals worked together to find a solution. They created a new section of the jungle where the panther could live without threatening the other animals. The jungle was alive with activity as Elliot and his friends enjoyed a peaceful morning. But that peace was shattered by an unnatural sound, loud, mechanical roars that echoed through the trees. Finn hopped onto a rock, his eyes wide with fear. "What is that noise?" Willow flew down from the sky, urgency in her voice. "There are machines approaching the jungle, big ones. They're tearing through the forest." Elliot's heart sank. "Humans?" Willow nodded. "It looks like they're clearing land. If they keep going, the jungle will be destroyed." The news spread quickly, and panic gripped the animals. "We can't fight humans." A deer exclaimed, "They'll destroy everything." Another animal cried. Elliot stepped forward, raising his trunk to get their attention. "We won't let that happen," he said firmly. "This is our home, and we'll fight to protect it." Elliot and his friends began organizing the animals, creating a plan to confront the humans. It was a daunting task, but Elliot's leadership gave the animals hope. Max climbed a tree to survey the approaching machines. "There are a lot of them," he said, his voice grim. "And they're moving fast," Ruby nodded. "We'll need to slow them down somehow," Finn croaked nervously. "Slow them down? How?" "They're huge." Elliot thought for a moment. "We'll use the jungle to our advantage. The humans don't know this land like we do. If we work together, we can outsmart them." The animals began setting traps, blocking paths, and creating obstacles to slow the machines. Even the smallest creatures pitched in, showing how far they had come since the start of Elliot's journey. The next day, the machines reached the edge of the jungle. Bulldozers and chainsaws roared to life, cutting down trees and flattening the land. Elliot led a group of animals to confront the humans directly. They used their traps to disable some of the machines, forcing the humans to stop and regroup. "Look at them scatter." Max cheered as a group of workers fled from a swarm of bees, but the victory was short-lived. The humans brought in more machines, and their determination to clear the jungle only grew stronger. Ruby looked at Elliot, her eyes filled with worry. "What if it's not enough?" Elliot's jaw tightened. "We'll find another way." As the humans pushed deeper into the jungle, Elliot realized they needed help. He called for a gathering of all the animals, even those who had stayed hidden during the earlier conflicts. "This isn't just about us," Elliot said, his voice carrying over the crowd. "This is about the future of the jungle. If we don't stand together, everything we love will be destroyed." The animals listened in silence. Then, one by one, they stepped forward to join the fight. Even the panther, now a trusted ally, offered to help. "You've proven yourself to me, Elliot," the panther said. "I'll fight by your side." With the entire jungle united, Elliot and his friends prepared for their final stand against the humans. They created elaborate traps and blockades, using their knowledge of the land to their advantage. When the humans returned, they were met with a fierce resistance. Elephants formed barriers with their massive bodies, birds swooped down to disrupt the workers, and smaller animals sabotaged the machines. Elliot led the charge, his booming trumpets rallying the animals. The humans were overwhelmed by the jungle's coordinated defense, and many began to retreat. But just as it seemed they were winning, a large bulldozer broke through their defenses, heading straight for the heart of the jungle. "Let's find out why it's here before we make any decisions," Elliot said. Over the next few days, Elliot and Willow observed the panther, slowly earning its trust. They discovered that the panther's territory had been destroyed by humans, forcing it to seek a new home. When Elliot explained this to the other animals, their fear turned to sympathy. "We can't blame it for trying to survive," Ruby said. Max nodded. "Maybe there's a way for us to coexist." With Elliot's guidance, the animals worked together to find a solution. They created a new section of the jungle where the panther could live without threatening the other animals. The jungle was alive with activity as Elliot and his friends enjoyed a peaceful morning. But that peace was shattered by an unnatural sound, loud, mechanical roars that echoed through the trees. Finn hopped onto a rock, his eyes wide with fear. "What is that noise?" Willow flew down from the sky, urgency in her voice. "There are machines approaching the jungle, big ones. They're tearing through the forest." Elliot's heart sank. "Humans?" Willow nodded. "It looks like they're clearing land. If they keep going, the jungle will be destroyed." The news spread quickly, and panic gripped the animals. "We can't fight humans," a deer exclaimed. "They'll destroy everything." Another animal cried. Elliot stepped forward, raising his trunk to get their attention. "We won't let that happen," he said firmly. "This is our home, and we'll fight to protect it." Elliot and his friends began organizing the animals, creating a plan to confront the humans. It was a daunting task, but Elliot's leadership gave the animals hope. Max climbed a tree to survey the approaching machines. "There are a lot of them," he said, his voice grim. "And they're moving fast," Ruby nodded. "We'll need to slow them down somehow," Finn croaked nervously. "Slow them down? How?" "They're huge." Elliot thought for a moment. "We'll use the jungle to our advantage. The humans don't know this land like we do. If we work together, we can outsmart them." The animals began setting traps, blocking paths, and creating obstacles to slow the machines. Even the smallest creatures pitched in, showing how far they had come since the start of Elliot's journey. The next day, the machines reached the edge of the jungle. Bulldozers and chainsaws roared to life, cutting down trees and flattening the land. Elliot led a group of animals to confront the humans directly. They used their traps to disable some of the machines, forcing the humans to stop and regroup. "Look at them scatter." Max cheered as a group of workers fled from a swarm of bees, but the victory was short-lived. The humans brought in more machines, and their determination to clear the jungle only grew stronger. Ruby looked at Elliot, her eyes filled with worry. What if it's not enough? Elliot's jaw tightened. "We'll find another way." As the humans pushed deeper into the jungle, Elliot realized they needed help. He called for a gathering of all the animals, even those who had stayed hidden during the earlier conflicts. "This isn't just about us," Elliot said, his voice carrying over the crowd. "This is about the future of the jungle. If we don't stand together, everything we love will be destroyed." The animals listened in silence. Then, one by one, they stepped forward to join the fight. Even the panther, now a trusted ally, offered to help. "You've proven yourself to me, Elliot," the panther said. "I'll fight by your side." With the entire jungle united, Elliot and his friends prepared for their final stand against the humans. They created elaborate traps and blockades, using their knowledge of the land to their advantage. When the humans returned, they were met with a fierce resistance. Elephants formed barriers with their massive bodies, birds swooped down to disrupt the workers, and smaller animals sabotaged the machines. Elliot led the charge, his booming trumpets rallying the animals. The humans were overwhelmed by the jungle's coordinated defense, and many began to retreat. But just as it seemed they were winning, a large bulldozer broke through their defenses, heading straight for the heart of the jungle.